I'm sitting in my car in the parking lot of Romano's Steakhouse, watching my mother through the front window as she adjusts her hair in the reflection, and I'm trying to remember when exactly I started hating family dinners. Not disliking, not dreading, hating. Maybe it was 3 years ago, when she told my cousin I was struggling to make ends meet while I was literally coordinating a multi-million-dollar supply operation in South Korea. Maybe it was 5 years ago, when she bought me a care package of canned goods and ramen to help stretch my budget while I was pulling a six-figure salary. Or maybe it was 10 years ago, when I first came home on leave and she looked at my uniform like it was a Walmart vest instead of army dress blues. The truth is, it doesn't matter when it started. What matters is that I'm 41 years old. I'm a captain in the United States Army with 16 years of service, and my mother still treats me like I'm 22 and working retail. I check my watch. 6:43 p.m., 7 minutes until our reservation. I could still leave. I could text her that something came up, a work emergency, a migraine, a sudden case of common sense. But I won't, because I've never been a coward, and I'm not starting now. I grab my purse, a simple black leather bag I've had for 5 years, and walk across the parking lot toward the entrance. My name is Amelie Hanks. I'm a captain in the U.S. Army, specializing in logistics and supply chain management. I've served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and South Korea. I've coordinated humanitarian relief operations that saved lives. I've led teams of soldiers through complex operations under impossible conditions. I have a master's degree in operations management and a security clearance that took 18 months to process. My mother thinks I work in warehouse management for a government contractor and makes about $30,000 a year. I let her think that because 14 years ago, when I first joined the Army, I made the mistake of being vague about my career, and she made assumptions. And I was too tired to correct them, and then years passed, and the assumptions calcified into facts, and now here we are. The hostess greets me with a bright smile. "Good evening. Do you have a reservation?" "Yes, under Catherine Hanks, party of 2. She scans her tablet. "Perfect. Right this way." I follow her through the restaurant. Romano's is a mid-tier chain, the kind of place with dark wood booths, TVs over the bar showing sports, and a menu that features both steak and pasta. It's not fancy, but it's not cheap either. Solid middle ground. My mother is already seated in a booth near the window, studying the menu. She looks up when I approach, and her smile is the practiced one she uses when she's about to say something cutting. "Emily, you made it. I was worried you'd be late." I slide into the booth across from her. The reservation is for 6:50. It's 6:48. Well, punctuality has never been your strong suit. She sets down the menu and looks me over with the clinical assessment of a person cataloging flaws. "Is that what you're wearing?" I glance down at my dress, a simple navy sheath dress, fitted but not tight, with 3/4 sleeves. I bought it 2 years ago from Nordstrom for $120, which is moderate by most standards but probably extravagant by hers. "Yes," I say. "It's very plain. It's a dinner, not a gala." She sighs, the kind of theatrical exhale designed to communicate disappointment without words. "I just think you could make more of an effort. You're still young enough to attract someone, but not if you keep dressing like you're going to a job interview." The server appears before I can respond, a young woman with a nose ring and a harried expression. "Good evening, ladies. Can I start you off with drinks?" "White wine," my mother says. "The house Chardonnay." "Water with lemon," I say. The server nods and disappears. My mother leans forward slightly. "You're not drinking?" "I have work tomorrow." "On a Saturday?" "Sometimes." She shakes her head. "That's the problem with your job. No work-life balance. You should really think about transitioning to something with better hours. Maybe retail management? You'd be good at that." I dig my nails into my palm under the table. "I'm fine where I am." "Are you though? Because every time I see you, you look exhausted. And you never talk about promotions or raises. When was the last time you got a raise?" Quote, "Recently, I say, which is technically true, my last promotion came with a significant pay increase." "How much?" "Enough." She sits back, and I can see the calculation in her eyes, the mental math she's doing, trying to figure out my financial situation based on incomplete data and false assumptions. "Well," she says finally, "I'm glad you're doing okay. I worry about you, you know. It's hard being single at your age. And with your job situation." "My job is fine, Mom." "I know you think that. But I've talked to Catherine." You remember Catherine from my book club? And her daughter works in HR at a Fortune 500 company, and she says there are always openings for people with logistics experience. Real logistics, not just warehouse stuff. You should let me give her your information. "I'm not looking for a new job." "But if you were making real money, you could afford nicer things, like a better car, or clothes that don't look like they came from a clearance rack." There it is, the first real cut. I force my expression to stay neutral. My clothes are fine. "Honey, I say this with love, but that dress probably cost $30. I can tell. The fabric is cheap, and those shoes," she gestures at my black flats. "Those are discount store shoes. There's no arch support. You're going to ruin your feet." The server returns with our drinks. My mother takes a sip of her wine, then continues as if we'd been discussing the weather. "I just want you to have nice things. Is that so wrong? You work so hard, and for what? To live in that tiny apartment and drive that old car and wear discount clothes?" "My apartment is fine. My car runs. And my clothes are embarrassing." She says it matter-of-factly, like she's commenting on the temperature. "I'm embarrassed for you when we go out. I see people looking at you, judging you, and I know what they're thinking. That poor woman. She can't afford decent clothes." My jaw is so tight I can feel my molars grinding. No one is thinking that. "They are. Trust me." She takes another sip of wine. "You know what your problem is? You've never had any ambition. You settled for an okay job instead of pushing for something better. And now you're stuck. The rage that's been building for years, decades maybe, sits in my chest like a living thing, hot and coiled and ready to strike. But I swallow it down. Because that's what I do. I swallow it and I smile and I change the subject. "How's your book club?" I ask. She brightens immediately, launching into a 15-minute monologue about the latest selection and the drama between two members who got into an argument about the ending. I nod in the right places. I make sympathetic noises. I am the good daughter who listens. And inside I'm screaming. The pattern didn't start with my mother. It started with me. When I joined the army at 25, later than most recruits, but I needed time to figure out what I wanted, I was terrified of failing. Terrified of being the oldest, the slowest, the one who couldn't keep up. So I kept my head down. I worked harder than everyone else. I never complained. And when people asked what I did, I gave vague answers because I didn't want to seem like I was bragging. "I work for the government. Logistics stuff." It's pretty boring, honestly. The vagueness was a shield. If I didn't talk about my accomplishments, then no one could accuse me of showing off. If I downplayed my career, then people wouldn't expect too much from me. But shields have a way of becoming prisons. By the time I made officer, I'd already established the narrative with my family. Emily, the quiet one. Emily, the one who works in warehouses. Emily, who's doing okay but not great. And my mother, who'd always been competitive in ways she'd never admit, latched onto that narrative like a lifeline. See, my mother had married young, had me at 23, and spent her entire adult life as a stay-at-home mom. She'd poured herself into parenthood, into being the perfect mother, the perfect homemaker. And when I turned 18 and moved out, she suddenly found herself without an identity. So she built a new one, the successful mother. The woman whose daughter was, well, not successful, but trying her best. My struggles, real or imagined, became her validation. Every time I came home looking tired, she got to be the concerned mother. Every time I wore simple clothes, she got to offer shopping advice. Every time I mentioned work stress, she got to suggest better career paths. My mediocrity, the version of me she'd constructed in her mind, made her feel needed. And I let it happen. Because it was easier than fighting. Because I told myself it didn't matter what she thought. Because I convinced myself that my real life, the one where I was Captain Hanks, where soldiers saluted me, where my decisions affected hundreds of people, was separate from my family life. But the problem with living two separate lives is that eventually they collide. The appetizers arrive, calamari for her, soup for me. She's moved on from my clothes to her neighbor's new kitchen renovation, which she finds both impressive and slightly gaudy. Granite countertops, she says with a sniff. So 2010. What's wrong with granite? Nothing if you want to look dated. Quartz is much more modern. But of course, that's more expensive, and not everyone can afford it. She says it casually, but I catch the subtext. You certainly couldn't afford it. I don't have countertops, I point out. I rent. Exactly. At your age, you should own property, build equity, but with your salary. She trails off, letting the implication hang. I focus on my soup. Tomato basil. It's actually pretty good. You know, she continues, if you'd gone into business like I suggested, you'd probably own a house by now, maybe even be married. But you chose this warehouse thing, and now look where you are. I'm fine where I am. Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, you're 41, single, renting, and wearing a $30 dress to dinner with your mother. The precision of the cruelty takes my breath away, not because it's true, it's not, but because of how carefully she's crafted it. The age jab, the relationship status, the financial assumptions, each one a tiny blade, designed to cut just deep enough to sting without drawing visible blood. I set down my spoon very carefully. Why do you do this? Do what? This, the constant criticism, the assumptions about my life, why? She blinks, genuinely surprised. I'm not criticizing, I'm being honest. Someone has to tell you these things. No one has to tell me these things. You choose to. Because I care about you. Her voice takes on that injured tone, the one that says, how dare you question my motives? I'm your mother. I want what's best for you. What you want is to feel superior to me. The words are out before I can stop them. Her face goes very still. That's a horrible thing to say. It's true, though. You need me to be struggling so you can feel like the successful one. The one who has it all figured out. The one with wisdom to share. I do have wisdom to share. I'm 56 years old. I've lived more life than you. You've lived a different life. Not more, not better, different. She picks up her wine glass, her hand trembling slightly. I don't know where this hostility is coming from. It's coming from years of you treating me like a failure. I've never called you a failure. You don't have to say it. It's in everything you do. Every suggestion. Every criticism. Every look. The server appears with our entrees, steak for both of us, and the interruption breaks the tension like a hammer through glass. We eat in silence for several minutes. The steak is cooked perfectly, medium rare, but I barely taste it. Finally, my mother sets down her fork. I don't understand why you're being so defensive. I'm just trying to help. I don't need help. Everyone needs help sometimes. Not from someone who thinks I'm incompetent. I don't think you're incompetent. I think you're underachieving. There it is. The truth, finally spoken plainly. I'm about to respond when I hear a voice I recognize. Captain Hanks? I look up and my stomach drops. Standing beside our table is Colonel Raymond Fierro, my commanding officer, in civilian clothes with his wife. He's smiling warmly, clearly pleased to see me in the wild. Sir, I say automatically, half rising from my seat. At ease, Captain. I didn't mean to interrupt your dinner. He glances at my mother. I just wanted to say hello. My wife and I eat here regularly. Great steaks, reasonable prices. I assume you're here for the same reason? My mother's staring at him, her fork frozen halfway to her mouth. Yes, sir, I manage. This is my mother, Catherine. Mom, this is Colonel Fierro, my commanding officer. The word colonel hangs in the air like a grenade. My mother sets down her fork slowly. Commanding officer? That's right, Colonel Fierro says, oblivious to the tension. Captain Hanks is one of my best officers. We're lucky to have her. He turns back to me. I heard about the Korea operation. Excellent work. The logistics coordination was flawless. Thank you, sir. Well, I'll let you get back to your dinner. Enjoy your evening, Captain. Ma'am. He nods to my mother and walks away. The silence that follows is deafening. My mother's face has gone through several colors, white, then red, then a mottled combination of both. She's staring at me like I've just sprouted wings. "Captain?" she whispers. Before I can answer, the restaurant manager appears, a tall man in his 40s whom I've known for 2 years because I eat here every Friday. He's holding a small leather folder and smiling. "Captain Hanks, I didn't realize you were dining in the main area tonight. Your usual private table in the back is available if you'd prefer to move." My mother makes a small choking sound. The manager glances at her, concerned. "Is everything all right?" "Fine," I say quietly. "We're fine here. Thank you, Tom." "Of course, let me know if you need anything." He places the folder on the table. The check, already prepared, already comped because I tip generously and I'm a regular, and walks away. My mother is still staring at me. Around us, the restaurant continues its normal chaos. Servers rushing past, conversations overlapping, the clink of silverware on plates. But at our table, everything has stopped. "You're a captain," she says finally. "It's not a question." "Yes." "In the army?" "Yes." "You have a commanding officer, a colonel?" "Yes." "And a usual table? A private table?" "I eat here every Friday after work. They know me." Her mouth opens, closes, opens again. "How long?" "How long what?" "How long have you been lying to me?" "I've never lied to you. You assumed I was low-level warehouse management. I never corrected you." "That's the same thing as lying." "Is it? Because you never actually asked about my job. You just decided what it was and moved on." She's gripping the edge of the table now, her knuckles white. "You let me think, you let me believe that I was struggling, that I was incompetent, that I needed your help." I lean forward slightly. "Why do you think I let you believe that, Mom?" "I don't know. Why?" "Because every time I tried to talk about my actual life, you changed the subject. Every time I mentioned a promotion or an achievement, you found a way to minimize it. So I stopped trying. I let you believe whatever made you feel better." "I was trying to help you." "No, you were trying to feel superior to me, and you needed me to be less than you in order to do that." Tears are forming in her eyes now, but I can't tell if they're from hurt or anger or shame. Probably all three. "That's not true," she says, but her voice wavers. "It is true, and you know it. You've spent 16 years treating me like a charity case because it made you feel important, made you feel needed. But I never needed you, not the way you wanted me to." "So what? You're rich, successful, and you've been hiding it from me?" "I'm comfortable. I make a good salary. I have savings. I own investments. I live simply because I like living simply, not because I can't afford better." She looks around the restaurant like she's seeing it for the first time. "Your usual table. They comp your meals." "I tip well. I'm polite. I'm a regular. They treat regulars well here." "And your clothes? The ones She stops, her face crumpling. "Oh, God. The ones you called cheap and embarrassing? They're fine, Mom. They're normal. But you needed them to be cheap because you needed me to be struggling." The server approaches to refill water glasses but reads the room and quickly retreats. My mother is crying now, soft tears running down her face, and part of me, the part that still loves her despite everything, wants to reach across the table and comfort her. But I don't, because this moment has been building for 16 years, and it needs to happen. "I'm sorry," she whispers finally. "I didn't realize I thought I was helping." "You weren't helping, you were hurting me. Every dinner, every criticism, every assumption, it hurt. Why didn't you say something?" "I tried. You didn't listen." She wipes her eyes with her napkin, smearing her mascara. "What do I do now?" Quote, "It's such a simple question, and I realize she genuinely doesn't know. She spent so long in this dynamic that she doesn't know how to exist outside of it. You start by actually asking about my life instead of assuming. You start by listening when I talk instead of waiting for your turn to criticize. You start by seeing me as I actually am, not as you need me to be." She nods slowly, though I'm not sure if she truly understands. We sit in silence for a long moment. The restaurant noise feels very loud suddenly. Laughter from the bar, a child crying in a booth nearby, the sports announcer on TV calling a play-by-play. "I am proud of you," she says finally. "I should have said that first. I am proud." "Thank you. I didn't know how to be your mother once you grew up, once you didn't need me anymore." And there it is, the core of it, the fear beneath all the criticism. "I do need you, Mom, just not the way you thought. I don't need you to fix my life or manage my career or tell me what to wear. I need you to be my mother, to love me, to see me. I do see you. Do you? Because tonight, before my boss walked over, you told me I was embarrassing to be seen with." She flinches. "I was wrong, I say. I say a lot of things that are wrong." It's not an apology, not quite, but it's close. The server returns, brave enough now to approach. "Can I get you ladies anything else? Dessert? Coffee?" My mother looks at me. "Do you want to stay?" I consider this. The smart thing would be to leave now, to end on this fragile note of almost understanding. But something in me wants to stay, wants to see if this moment can become something more. "Coffee," I say. "Black." "Same," my mother says. The server nods and disappears. We sit in awkward silence, neither of us quite sure how to move forward. Finally, my mother speaks. "Tell me about Korea, the operation your colonel mentioned." It's such a small thing, this question, but it's the first time in 16 years she's asked about my actual work. So I tell her, not everything. Some details are classified, but enough. Enough that she can understand what I actually do, what my days look like, what I'm responsible for. She listens, really listens, and when I'm done, she says, "That sounds incredibly stressful." It is, but it's also rewarding. "And you're good at it." "I am." She nods slowly, processing. "I really have been terrible, haven't I?" "Yeah," I say, "you have." Can we fix this? Us?" I think about this. The honest answer is that I don't know. Years of damage don't heal in one conversation, no matter how dramatic the revelation. But I also know that I can't keep living with the rage I've been carrying. It's been eating me alive from the inside. "We can try," I say finally, "but it's going to take work, from both of us." "I can work," she says. "I want to work." The coffee arrives. We drink it in a silence that's less hostile than before, though still uncomfortable. When the check comes, the comped check, my mother stares at it for a long moment. "I really don't know anything about your life, do I?" she says. "No, but you can, if you want to." I do. We stand to leave. In the parking lot, under the harsh fluorescent lights, we pause beside our cars. "Thank you for dinner," she says. "You're welcome. Can we do this again? Try again?" I want to say no. Part of me wants to walk away and never look back. But the other part, the part that remembers being 8 years old and having my mother braid my hair, the part that remembers her sitting in the audience at my commissioning ceremony, even though she didn't understand what she was watching, that part says yes. "We can try," I say. She nods, gets in her car, and drives away. I stand in the parking lot for a long time after she's gone, feeling the weight of 16 years finally start to lift. 2 weeks later, my mother texts me, "Coffee this Saturday? I promise not to critique your outfit." I stare at the message for a full minute before responding, "Okay, 10 a.m. at Fletcher's? See you there." When Saturday comes, I almost cancel. Old habits die hard, and the thought of sitting across from her again makes my stomach clench. But I go anyway. She's already there when I arrive, sitting at a corner table with 2 coffees already ordered. "I got you a latte," she says. "I remembered you liked them." It's such a small thing, but it matters. We talk for an hour. She asks about my work. I tell her about a recent training exercise. She tells me about her book club. I listen. It's not perfect. She still makes a comment about my hair that's slightly critical, and I have to bite back a sharp response. But she catches herself, apologizes, and moves on. Progress, not perfection. As we're leaving, she says, "I've been thinking about what you said, about needing to feel superior." "Yeah? You were right, I did need that. I think I was jealous of you." This surprises me. Jealous? You have this whole life, this career, this purpose. And I gave up my career when I had you, and I never regretted it, but I also never figured out who I was supposed to be after you left. So I made myself feel important by trying to fix you, even though you didn't need fixing. It's the most honest thing she's ever said to me. Thank you for telling me that, I say. I'm trying, she says. I'm really trying. I know. We hug goodbye, stiff and awkward, but genuine. Driving home, I realize something. I'm not angry anymore. The rage that's been sitting in my chest for years has finally started to dissolve. Not because she fixed everything, not because she's suddenly a different person, but because I finally stood up for myself. Because I finally demanded to be seen. And that feeling of reclaiming my own worth is worth more than any apology she could offer. 3 months later, my mother attends a change of command ceremony where I'm officially recognized for my work on a humanitarian relief operation in Southeast Asia. She sits in the audience in a section reserved for family members. When my name is called and I step forward to receive a commendation, she claps louder than anyone else. Afterward, at the reception, Colonel Fierro approaches her. Mrs. Hanks, you must be very proud. I am, she says, and this time I can hear that she means it. He walks away, and she turns to me. You looked very professional up there. Thank you. And that uniform, it's beautiful, much nicer than those dresses I used to criticize. I laugh despite myself. The Army has strict standards. Well, they're lucky to have you. It's still not perfect between us. There are still moments when she slips into old patterns, when I have to remind her that I don't need advice I didn't ask for. There's still dinners where I leave frustrated, still phone calls that end in tense silence. But there are also moments like this, moments where she sees me, really sees me. And that's enough. Because I learned something important that night at Romano's Steakhouse. The people who love us don't always know how to show it. They project their own fears and insecurities onto us, mistaking control for care, criticism for concern. But we don't have to accept their version of us. We can stand up. We can demand to be seen for who we actually are. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, they'll finally open their eyes. As my mother and I walk out of the ceremony together, she links her arm through mine. Captain Hanks, she says with a small smile, that has a nice ring to it. It does. I agree. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I know. Will you forgive me? I think about this question. About all the years of criticism and mockery and assumptions. About the pain and the rage and the exhaustion of maintaining 2 separate lives. And then I think about this moment, about her sitting in that audience, clapping for me, about her trying, however imperfectly, to change. I'm working on it, I say honestly. We're both working on it. She nods. That's fair. We walk to the parking lot in comfortable silence. Before we part ways, she hugs me. A real hug this time, not the stiff, performative kind. I love you, she says. I should have said that more. I love you too, Mom. She gets in her car and drives away. I stand there for a moment, watching her taillights disappear into traffic, and I realize something. I'm free. Free from the need to hide. Free from the weight of her expectations. Free from the rage that was eating me alive. I'm Captain Emily Hanks, United States Army, 16 years of service and counting. And for the first time in a very long time, that's enough.